Hello! Today I'm going to take a look at this set by Zig, or Kuretake, and it's the Gansai Tambi portable 14 colours set Japanese style watercolours, which may be more like a gouache. I never know what they are, but let's get into it. I'm looking forward to having fun with these today. So first up, this box is so pretty. I am really loath to throw it out because I love this little design. It's so gorgeous. And if I just flip it over quickly, on the back you can see a preview of what it looks like, and also there is a little swatch card on the back. So that's going to be helpful because I have actually pulled this out and I managed to drop a couple of the half pans accidentally out on the table, and I'll show you how in a minute. So I've completely messed up the order, and I think I'm actually going to change it anyway because I really don't care for the way they are laid out. Let me get this box open. It's a super cute little plastic set, a little plastic palette, and if I open it, it comes like this. It also comes with the water brush pen and a lovely black marker pen, or fineliner. It's a water-based pigment marker. I'm really hoping that it is waterproof once it dries, so I'll be testing it. Usually the cartoonist ones are, so I hope that doesn't make a liar of me. Now I'm just going to pull these out so I don't drop them. And in the top of the lid you can see there's quite a lot of little mixing wells, which I think is really great, and I've got a bit of something coming off one of these ones, I think. As you can see, there's a few cracks. Now the biggest downfall of the set is if I tilt it, can you see that the paint is not straight across, which is really annoying. It's actually quite deep in there, so you don't get as much paint as I would hope for, and this was not a very cheap set either, so I am a little disappointed by the quantity of paint in this set. But anyway, we've got it now, so we may as well use it. What I really love about this thing is that it comes out of here, it unclips, and you can actually pull it completely out of the palette, and you could, I guess, use this as mixing wells, or you could even put some water in there if you had no other container, so it's quite useful. But the trouble is that can you see how easily they slide out? So that is kind of annoying because what they actually have on them is a little hooky thing, and you can see that there's a groove there so that you can slide them in, and then once they're on they stay put. And when it's clipped into here they don't move around, but when you take it out they easily fall out of here and go everywhere. So I have lost a couple before. I think I put them back in the right order, but as you can see from here, there's a blue there and a brown there and a purple there, and it's driving me nuts. What they've done is put, say, matching colours above each other, so they've got two yellows here, two reds, two blues, but then there's a violet and a green. This one is, I think that was the burnt sienna, and I can't remember what that one is, but they just don't really make sense to me. So what I'm actually going to do is pull them out and change them into an order that I'm happy with. Here we go, so I've pulled them all out, and that's the insert with nothing in it. Now, what I actually did check before I did this was to make sure that the colours are labelled on here, because they aren't labelled anywhere else except on the back of the box. So thankfully the number and the name of it's here, so I can easily switch these around. Okay, I know I'm probably overthinking this. I've put them into an order. That green, it doesn't really want to fit anywhere. I think I might swap these two over though. I just feel like that needs to be in that corner, and then I'm just going to call it done. So I'll just quickly do that. Okay, I think that looks more aesthetically pleasing, so I'm going to go with that. I'll just pop this back in and clip it in, and as you can see, once it's in they stay pretty firm. It's just when you pull it out that they go everywhere, so do be mindful of that if you end up with one of these sets. So I've rolled up a fairly massive chart in my Etcher sketchbook. This is an A4 one with 100% cotton watercolour paper, and I just figured I would make big swatches because I wanted to fill the whole space. And I am going probably to use a bigger brush because I don't think this brush is really going to cut it on here. I might leave that brush aside to do a bit of painting with, but for now I'm just going to use a regular brush. I find a flat brush is much easier to swatch, so I'll just use something like this. Alright, I will get swatching and we can look at all of the colours together. I need to actually label them first. All labelled, let's get swatching. I started out by wetting the paper a bit, as I usually do because I like to see the colours run, and then I picked up as much lemon yellow as I could on the brush. Now I noticed with these that yes, they do re-wet, but they actually activate a little bit after you've put water on, so dripping some water on or spraying them is a good idea for these paints. The lemon yellow is nice and transparent, but it wasn't very highly pigmented by comparison to the cadmium yellow next to it. Now, Kuretake has not put out any pigment details, so I don't know what the pigment numbers are for any of these, but the cadmium yellow is a very pretty colour indeed. So next up we have red, and this is a nice mid-red, not too cool, not too warm. I really like this colour. And as a cool red or pink we have rose madder. Now this one I'm pretty convinced is opera rose, or at least it has that fluorescent quality to it. And indeed I actually found a website which had done a light fastness test on all of the Kuretake colours. Rose madder completely faded after about 6 months, I think, so yeah, not light fast at all. Cobalt violet, on the other hand, is not what I would call cobalt violet. It's not granulating enough, but it is almost the same colour and I do really like it. This one I was expecting it to fade quite a lot in this light fastness test, but it wasn't too bad. So I will post a link below so you can see for yourself which one's faded. It's pretty much any of the pinks and reds. The ultramarine, I found that this one did not get very dark at all and had a low tinting strength by comparison to some other brands, and the cobalt blue was also the same. It took ages to re-wet it and get it activated, so the blues in the set for me are a little disappointing because later on you'll see that I was just not really able to mix a decent green with them. Now there is one green in the set, but I of course swapped it, and I shouldn't have done that. I should have left the green in that left hand corner, but instead I put the natural beige there, and you can see it is a very pale colour. It's a buff titanium, I would say. This sap green light is the only green in the set. I really like the colour, but a second green was really needed in this set, and I was complaining in a different one about how there were too many greens. In this set there are nowhere near enough. I can't win. Anyway, the next colour here is burnt sienna, and that's a nice standard burnt sienna, nothing really to report there. PR 101 possibly? I'm just guessing there. As you can see, I also painted burnt sienna in raw umber deep and I had to take it off again. It lifted really well, so that's a good test for it. Raw umber deep was a nice dark brown, and this is another one that I really like in the set. I think the two browns that they chose are quite decent and you can do a lot with them. The black is also quite good. It's a nice deep black, and the only thing I found with it though is it ran a lot, and so if the paper was wet around it, it just ran straight into it, much more than some of the other colours, and so that was a little annoying. I had a few messy areas on some of my swatches and my paintings. The grey is quite a nice colour. It's one that I might use quite a bit, but other people might just think, oh, why would you want a grey? The white is completely useless. Pretty much zero opacity when it dried, so I would get rid of the white and replace it with a green. Hey, these are fully dry. I'm really regretting switching those. I should have put the green there. Oh well, too bad, it's too late now. Anyway, the colours have dried quite light, and I think that's because they are incredibly transparent, all of them. Even that white, which is totally useless, you can see that the black is showing completely through it. It's also gone a bit grey, and that's because I think the water was still a little murky. Oops! So if I bring them up, as you can see, the raw umber has quite a bit of granulation, whereas none of the others really do. Not even the ultramarine, a tiny bit in that one, and the cobalt blue, the cobalt violet. Okay, so I'm going to do some painting. Now, I've already done a bonus painting, which I'm going to show first because I felt inspired to paint something in my other sketchbook, but I'm also going to do a bigger painting in here. Now, in my smaller sketchbook, I've used the water brush and the black fineliner pen, but this paper is just really too rough for that fineliner pen because it's got such a fine nib. I don't want to chew it up on this paper, so I'm just going to use regular brushes and paint on here. So let's get into this. I'll show the other video first, and then I will come back to this one and I'll paint this page. So first up is the Primrosia Sketchbook, and I used the Mangaka fineliner pen to outline all of the pansies. This is from a photo I took outside of a supermarket. They had this box full of all these really pretty flowers, and I grabbed a couple of pictures before we went in. This is loosely based off the photo. I actually redrew some of the flowers and put in a few different colours just to balance out the picture. So I'm going in with the yellows and the reds Also the rose madder as well. Of course, this is in a sketchbook, so I guess I'm not going to be worrying too much about that fading, but you would not want to use that on anything that's going to be sitting in the sun. The water brush worked out really well, actually. I was surprised at how good it is, although it was incredibly juicy, and even though I wiped the brush multiple times on a tissue as I was using it, it just kept putting more water out, so it was quite hard to control the paints, and you could see they're running into each other a little bit. I did like it though, and it covered a surprising amount of paper. I thought it wasn't going to work at all, which is why I used the smaller book, just so I could test it out. But yeah, I am really happy with it. So the quality of the fine liner and the water brush are excellent. Now I'm using that single green here because I did try to mix up some deeper greens, and you'll see this in the background, but they just went all muddy and I just was not happy with the colours that they produced. The two blues, the cobalt blue and the ultramarine, have a tendency towards being slightly warmer, and warm blues just do not make nice greens. And then I splashed all the same colours up the top to make a bit of an abstract background, and went in with the black, which did fade quite a bit in some of it and went quite a grey colour. But otherwise the colours in the set were quite good. They're very bright, and I think they worked really well for this style of sketch. Here's the finished artwork. And going on to the next one, I went into my larger sketchbook and I drew the picture with the 3H graphite pencil so it's nice and light, and I just went straight in with the paints. Now this is a lady with her back to us holding a bouquet of wildflowers. I saw it on Pixabay and it caught my eye, so I thought I'd paint this one. Now going in with these paints with my bigger brushes, and I found that these were much more challenging to use with this set than the water brush that came with it, and that's because the paints are so heavily indented that it's really hard to get the brush in there and swirl it around to pick up the colour. So yeah, I was struggling a little bit with this, but otherwise, I mean, it worked pretty much as a standard watercolour set. The colours, as I said, are very vibrant, and I found that natural beige came in quite useful as well. It mixed up quite well with some of the burnt sienna and rose madder to make a nice pale skin colour. And here I am going in with that green again. I mean, as a green, it is a colour that I use quite a lot because I do like how bright it is, but I just could not get darker greens out of it, and I ended up just putting cobalt blue over the top to try and make a darker value. But it was just really frustrating, and this set's biggest downfall is not having that extra dark green, or at least a phthalo green or something that you could mix with yellow to make a brighter green, because the two blues are just not working. I of course didn't think to mix purple, but that's because the cobalt violet that's included is actually a really good colour, and it would be much easier to make purples and oranges out of the set because there are some warm colours in there to do so. On this paper, a lot of the colours just faded into the paper, and I had to go over everything a few times just to get a bit more depth of colour and also to get some of the stronger values. The blues in particular just weren't heavily tinting enough, and I wasn't able to get much value out of it. So I got a bit frustrated, and I actually pulled a darker green out of the large Kuretake set that I have, and this is forest green. Can you just see the immediate improvement when you have a nice dark green to add into that and just add some actual interest and texture to an otherwise very wishy-washy page? Oh, it made such a huge difference. So if they had just taken out the white and put in that forest green, it would be a much better set. I think the cobalt violet purple was probably one of my favourite colours out of the set, and I was able to get at least a bit more of a value there. And then I just went over everything with a white gel pen to add in a few highlights and tidy up a few little areas where the paint had run into each other, so I think that helped a lot, and overall I was quite happy with this painting. Here it is, final piece. I'm finished! Well, at least I've decided I'm finished. I had more fun using this set in my smaller sketchbook with the water brush and the pen, and that's because the paints are small themselves, and so it's easier to paint just a smaller area with them. It's just a lot less frustrating. So in an ideal world, I would get rid of that white and put in the forest green, and then it would be a pretty good palette. Let me know if you want me to curate a palette of what I think the ideal colours are, because I would be quite interested to do that, and I might think of doing something starting from maybe a set of 3 colours to 6 to 12 to 24 or something like that, so let me know if that's something you might want to see in the future. Going back to this palette, would I recommend it? Yeah, the paints themselves are nice, don't get me wrong, but I just don't like the way they are indented, and I think that the colour choices are not really that great. The palette itself is very nice. I think it's really great for travelling, although here is an issue that I can see coming up. Because these wells are indented, the water pools down the bottom, so if you needed to move quickly and you close your palette and you move off, all of that paint is quite likely going to run out and just go everywhere. So even for travel, I'm a bit dubious, unless you filled the half pans up fully and they were flat, then it would work like any other travel palette. I do like that the brush and the pen fit in there, and I think you could probably stuff a little pencil in there too or something like that. So personally, I don't think I would get this set again. I do have the buyer's remorse a bit, and I think there are so many other options out there which are much better than this one. The paints themselves are fine, but it's just not laid out well or very well executed in general. Going past the foibles, let's just take a quick look at what I did. So we've got this one in the sketchbook. I mean, you can see the colours are nice and bright, and I'm really happy with how they turned out in here. And then I had the paints swatched out over this side. That black was driving me crazy because it just went everywhere, and it also did the same in this one. Her hair ran, and then I mixed it with the blue and it was running into the skin, and so frustrating. So let me know what you think about this palette. I will link it down in the description below so you can check it out, and I will also put in some of the larger Gansai Tambi sets because I think those are actually well worth the money, and I would highly recommend one of those over this travel set. I just think this travel set was more exasperating than useful, to be honest. So I'll put everything in. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Would you buy this set? What colours would you prefer to have in it? And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and click that subscribe button, and I will see you all again really soon in my next video. Have a fantastic day. I'll swatch you later. Bye!